Welcome to our meeting tonight. Apologies for the late start. We had a few minor technical difficulties, but nothing that can't be overcome by our brilliant staff. Welcome to this meeting of the Pyrenees Shire Council. Councillors will today deliberate and decide on a range of matters relevant to the work of the council in its communities for the welfare of the people of the Pyrenees Shire. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this ordinary council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online. Anyone who is invited to read out a question or make a submission will be recorded, and their voice, image and comments will form part of that live stream and recording. The chair and or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed appropriate. That may include where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. The live stream will stop prior to the closed section of the meeting and will recommence for the conclusion of the meeting. The public is able to view this live stream via our website at www.pyrenees.vic.gov.au. Should technical issues prevent continuation of the live stream, the meeting will continue as long as a quorum can be maintained, and where possible, a recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. Where a quorum cannot be maintained, the meeting will be adjourned until the issue is resolved or the meeting postponed to another time and date in accordance with the Council's governance rules. We acknowledge the people past and present of the Wadawurrung, Jar Jar Wurrung, Eastern Mar and Watchabella Shire, whose land forms the Pyrenees Shire. We pay our respect to the customs, traditions and stewardship of the land by the elders and people of these tribes on whose land we meet today. Any apologies? We do have an apology from Councillor Keogh. Apologies, seeing them are all in attendance. Any notice of disclosure of interest, councillors? Officers? No problems, thank you. I ask for confirmation of the previous minutes held on the 19th of March 24 and the closed meeting of Council held on March 24. Move Councillor Ferrari, second Councillor Easton. Thank you. All in favour? That's carried. Any business arising from those minutes? No, thank you. Public participation. Members of the community are encouraged to participate in public ordinary council meetings by asking questions or presenting a submission. This can be done by attending in person or by submitting in writing prior to 12 noon on the day of the meeting, online through Council's website or by mail or hand delivered. If a question or submission is submitted in writing, this will be read by the chair during public participation, stating the person's name and township. Question time will be held first, followed by public submissions. 30 minutes is allowed for the total period of public participation. Time extensions may be allowed at the discretion of the chair, subject to the provisions of the governance rules. The person may ask a maximum of 2 questions at any one meeting. The chair will allocate a maximum of 5 minutes to each person who wishes to address council or ask questions. The chair, councillor or council officer to whom a question is referred may immediately answer the question or take the question on notice for answering at a later date. There will be no discussion or debate with public attendees. However, councillors may ask questions of the attendees for clarification. Tonight we do have a question which has been submitted from Mr. Trevor Davey. Trevor, do you wish to read your question out, or are you happy for me to do it? I'd like you to do it. Thank you. With all the activity in the past few years of installations of wind turbines across the landscape and farms in the Pyrenees Shire, I have a question. Does council receive any funds or payments for the use of this rateable land over the past years, or does council lose that area of rates, and or does council currently have income from all its infrastructure on the land? Mr. to respond to that, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Davies, for this question. The Pyrenees Shire Council receives revenue annually in revenue and from wind farms within the municipal district. This revenue is calculated via the legislative agreement through the Electricity Industries Act 2000 on the basis of a formula, which is a formula in two parts: base rate, and then there's a rate per megawatt of power that's generated. The estimated income in the 23-24 council budget was $1.291 billion for 23-24, based on that payment in lieu of rates under the Electricity Act. So that has been in place for several years, and it continues year on year. The income is indexed each year based on inflation as per the ABS, as identified in the Act. The agreement, however, does not take into account all infrastructure of the wind farm, but covers the towers and the main parts of the infrastructure associated with wind farm. So I hope that provides some clarity.
No further questions from Miguel? Yeah, Mr. Davis.
Yes, Mayor. I was wondering, is Pyrenees Council an active agent for big roads? Collect payments or fees, or do they have some authority in the council appointed by big roads to act on big roads behalf in other matters?
Brown, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question. We are agents for, we used to be agents for big roads with regards to London. And we do have an arrangement with big roads to, that allows us to access their records for parking inventory. It's very limited to people who have access. It's very limited and very controlled, but that's all we do on behalf of.
No further questions. Thank you. We'll move on to items for noting. Item 9.1.1. Customary. Move Councillor Clark, second Councillor Pearson. Any comments, Councillor Clark?
Just can I compliment Ms. Grammel on the additional information you provided us. I know sometimes people come from Melbourne and it's hard to find a voter, but in the internet world it's very easy to find a voter, as you can see from a junk email we get. So.
Further comments, Councillor? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those carried. 9.1.2, the Audit and Risk Committee. Move Councillor Easton, second Councillor Ferrari. Comments? I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Carried. Councillor Activity Reports. 1.1. Move Councillor Clark, second Councillor Easton. Comments? Motion. Those in favour? Carried. We move on to 11.1. Assembly of Councillors, March 2024. Move Councillor Easton, second Councillor Clark. All those in favour? Carried. Move to item 12.1, items for decision.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to inform councillors and the community on recent activities of the Economic Development and Tourism team, and to review the progress of actions and activities against the March 2022 Economic Development Strategy and Action Plan. So Council has a strategy to assist in growing the economy within the Pyrenees Shire. And the strategy is titled Economic Development Towards 10,000 Strategy, which was developed in March 2020, and it's a 10-year strategy. And there are three overarching objectives: to attract new residents, visitors and investment, to foster the capability of key economic sectors, and to develop local businesses and employee capacity. Mr. Mayor, there's quite a bit of data and information in this report, which I won't read in detail, but a few points to note in terms of how our economy is tracking. The first point to note is the growth in population. And the population since 2013 to 2023 has grown at an average rate of 1.22%. The gross regional product, the growth in the economy has grown over the last year by $37 million. And the number of new jobs, new businesses created in the year ending June 2023 has grown by 13 new businesses. In respect of the predicted outlook for agriculture, which is one of the key propulsive sectors, there is a forecast of a rise of about 6% in the value of production forecast over the next 12 months. And that's mostly based on improved seasonal conditions to support crop production values. Soya prices of livestock are expected to recover in 24-25 from a sudden increase in domestic supply in 23-24. It's expected that there'll be a high global demand for livestock production to support rising international prices, and that the average farm cash income will recover from a large drop in 23-24. So, Council, this is information that's come from ABARES, which is a leading authority in agriculture and forecasting. And so that's surprising to receive a positive forecast for one of our key propulsive sectors, which effectively employs, creates about half of the jobs in the Pyrenees Shire. In terms of some of the other activities of the unit, the report outlines some of those which have been well documented and reported separately in this council meeting, including the work in respect of the North East Water Supply Project, both Caravan Park, both Internet Span, and also the Tourism Midwest Destination Management Plan, which is a key document to support growth in tourism in the future. There's also a significant amount of work in developing digital connectivity within the Shire, and also reported here is the significant aspects in respect of the impact on the economy as a result of Pyrenees Shire Road bushfire. A number of events have been sort of scheduled over the autumn and into the winter, which are key drivers to visitation to the region. And a number of sort of seasonal marketing campaigns associated with the tourism, supporting the tourism sector. The strategy that I've referred to, councillors, has 32 actions contained in it, and an attachment to this report identifies that of the 32 actions, bear in mind this is a 10-year plan, 9 of those actions have been completed, 10 are in progress, 5 involve ongoing work that's about recurring activities, 8 have not yet started. So, council, the detail of that is in the attachment, and some of those have been identified within the body of the report. So I won't sort of speak to the details of those, but council, the information is provided by way of update, but there are also opportunities to continue to advocate for the work, and the recommendation, councillors, is that as a note of the information contained in this report, that Council, in conjunction with Tourism Midwest Victoria, advocates for funding from the Victorian Government to support the recovery of the tourism sector due to the significant impact following the Pyrenees Shire.
Thank you. No, recommendation, council. Councillor Clark, seconded. Councillor Reason.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to reiterate the importance of that second part of the recommendation. I mean, we know that Capable Creek is our pinnacle business out there, and they are now open again to school kids to the commencement of the term, which is good, but there's a lot of other really reasonable White Creek businesses that are very much a part of the character of Pyrenees Shire that I think will need help, and we should be doing our best to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to note that we've got to keep going with the existing projects that we've got. Last weekend we had the Pyrenees Wine Festival, but things like the town markets for Avoca, both in Walbrook, the art exhibition coming up. We've got to keep moving on through to try and keep that tourism market still coming in the Pyrenees.
Thank you. No further discussion, councillors. I put the motion as in favour. 12.2.1, community group and not-for-profit organisations waste service rates exemption. Thank you, Mr. Gowans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report seeks council direction on waste service fees applied on community groups and not-for-profit organisations within Pyrenees Shire. Waste service fees are applied to properties as shown in the table in the report. 19 properties currently include exemption from a waste service fee and still utilise the waste services, including curbside collection, transfer stations and material deposit services. This is equivalent to approximately $10,500 of costs that are covered by other properties paying the waste service charges. There are over 230 community groups within Pyrenees Shire. Some of these community groups and not-for-profit organisations own or lease property within Pyrenees Shire and could be eligible for an exemption to the waste service fee. The 19 properties currently exempt from waste service fees are of various types, and these properties will be reviewed against the criteria determined in this report and updated to the appropriate waste service fee. The main properties that are under consideration are public halls, recreation reserves, sporting clubs and facilities, churches, community childcare centres, scouts and guides, and other not-for-profit organisations. There are several options with different criteria to consider in determining if an exemption to the waste service fee should be granted. These will have different impacts on the waste service fee of other ratepayers. There are three options which before council. And option one would be to fully exempt all waste fees, including leased properties, and this would mean that all community groups and not-for-profit organisations would be considered exempt. However, this option would result in an estimated cost change of $26,000 if a total of 65 properties met the criteria and would result in a rough increase of $6 per property on the current waste charges. Option two is very close to the status quo that we have now, which is an exemption for not-for-profit organisations. However, there is the ability within this to charge additional bin fees applied to non-sporting facilities. This option would only be available for not-for-profit organisations that have owned properties and are exempt from all waste service rate fees, but fees for additional bins will apply if they're not a sporting facility. The number of exempt additional bins is restricted to sporting facilities. Currently, it's the maximum is 4 bins for an active facility. This option would result in an estimated cost change of $3,000 if approximately 25 properties, 6 additional to the current exempted properties, met these criteria and would result in a rough increase of $1 per property current on the waste charge. And the third option would be to not have any exemptions, effectively roll back the exemptions that exist at the moment. It would result in a small cost savings. As the waste service is a cost recovery service, considerations to exemptions to the fees applied to community groups and not-for-profit organisations will result in higher fees to the properties that pay waste service fees. And the opposite exemption is that council adopts option 2, the exemption to waste fees for not-for-profit organisations that own property within Pyrenees Shire Council, excluding additional bins if not a sporting facility, and that council supports council's waste team to review existing property exemptions, and that council, 3, that council encourages not-for-profit organisations that meet the option 2 criteria to apply for exemptions to the waste fees included on waste notices.
Thank you, Mr. Gowans. Heard the recommendation. Councillor Smith, Peter's move. Councillor Christian's move. Second, Councillor Ferrara. Third, Councillor Ferrara. Councillor Blair.
Yeah, just, I think, I fully support the recommendation. It makes sense. A number of the properties that are listed on councils include local regulations and that, but it's quite clear in the listing you provided, Mr. Gowans, that there are a number of anomalies there with things like RSL, golf shops, and that kind of thing. So this gives you the power to go back and look at this and do that. So I think it's quite appropriate that we move.
Thank you. No further consideration. I put the motion. Those in favour? Carried. Item 12.2.2, waste disposal quantities and cost update. Thank
you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides an update on the waste quantities and cost implications generated from an increase in materials going to landfill from curbside collection and transfer station operations. This report also provides an update on the recycling glass volumes and costs. The report contains a graph of a 5-year summary of landfill and recycling volume generated with a projection at the end of this financial year. And there's a graph there showing, in the report, showing the total disposal tonnage, and there's a general trend of increasing, shown by that graph. There's also some other graphs that are broken down to various waste components, like our curbside collection disposal tonnage, which has remained reasonably steady, although there is a small increase, and our transfer stations disposal tonnage, which is projected to be higher than it has been in the last 5 years. There's also some graphs in there around the cost per tonne, which have increased over time, which also reflects in the waste charges that have increased over time as well. So this report is for council to consider the increasing volume and cost of disposal of landfill waste, recycling glass materials. The main increase in volume is from the landfill waste at an increase of around 25 tonnes per month, from 150 tonnes to 175 tonnes per month. The 23-24 budget of the waste services is still projected to be within the overall budget, but the component for the disposal of landfill, recycling glass, included within the overall waste service budget, is projected to be over budget by roughly $80,000. However, this overspend will be offset by a reduced expenditure in curbside collection budget. Council's waste team is limited with disposal options for landfill due to the cost of transport, and there are only 2 landfills in close proximity to Pyrenees Shire Council, which are at Stawell and Smythe. Options for material disposal are continually being discussed between surrounding councils, including a recent collaboration for requests for proposals for 3 options of material disposals, which included waste to energy, green waste and organics, and recycling. Council's waste management team will continue to investigate options for disposal of landfill, recycling glass materials to ensure the best value and to ensure a low waste service fee to ratepayers. And the officer recommendations that Council notes the data contained in this report. Council continues to investigate options to reduce waste to landfill, having regard to Council's limited financial capacity, and noting that a full waste service review is scheduled for 24-25. And the Council communicates the finding of the curbside bin audit as part of the public education program on waste and recycling.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Gowans. For the recommendation, Councillor Smith, Councillor Ferrari, second, please. Wish to speak, Councillor Ferrari, please. Three noes. I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour? Carried. Yeah, thank you. Rule 3.1, instrument of appointment and authorisation is granted. Thank you.
The purpose of this report is for council to adopt instruments of appointments and authorisation for two council officers, local government acts and various other acts and regulations. Instruments of appointments and authorisation are updated when the officers are employed by council in roles that require them to exercise statutory powers. Some positions within council benefit from having individual instruments approved for the officers, as they may be challenged by members of the community when undertaking their duties. And such positions include those of the environmental health officer and building inspector. Instruments of appointment and authorisation for the following officers are now provided for council's consideration and adoption. And that's Maria Galea, who's the environmental health officer, and Gavin Tarski, building inspector. And it's the officer's recommendation that council, in the exercise of powers conferred by Local Government Act 2020 and other legislation, considers and adopts the instruments of appointment and authorisation as already stated, and resolves that the instruments be. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved. Councillor Ferrari, second, Councillor please. Comments, Councillors. Thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Carried. Well, 3.2. Mr. Bramwell, Pyrenees Aquatic update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides an end-of-season summary for the last full season, 2023-24 summer, including a review of the community participation and operational outcomes, and also provides some context of current asset conditions and an option concerning operations costs. The last full season was positive, with targeted participation growth and an increase in season pass purchasing and attendance. The summer was affected with some operational challenges, including necessary venue closures due to bushfires and reactive maintenance. The aquatic leisure industry in general has still to return to pre-COVID attendance levels, and this year, Pyrenees pool attendance levels were affected by weather, negatively impacted by closures for maintenance and bushfire emergency. Venues saw a collective decrease of 15.83% compared to last season, attributed to enforced closures, as already said, and the bushfires. Both isn't outline being the only pool to record growth in patronage, increasing on last year by 695 visits. Management growth experienced decreases. There's more information in the tables there on attendance in the past 3 years. The average daily patronage for each pool for the season was both at 58.59 and patrons, Wales at 32.17 and Lansbury 4.83. Unfortunately, the season saw a continuation in an annual escalation of the cost to provide swimming services. Over the past 5 years, the cost to provide Pyrenees pools has doubled, and each pool is experiencing growing requirements and costs for repair and maintenance. So, bearing all that in mind, the aquatic facilities are at the end of their life, with any work currently undertaken largely being reactive in nature. This is not an issue that's solely pertaining to Pyrenees, but it's a national issue, with an estimate of 40% of public pools reaching the end of their lifespan this decade, because the average public pool in Australia was built in 1968. I believe ours was built in 1973, that's right? Yeah. So issues facing the Pyrenees pools include financial and operational viability, pool shell integrity, failing plants, assets that are non-compliant, and no longer fit for purpose, and the absence of ancillary income streams that could assist to compensate for rising costs. Without some form of strategic analysis and planning support, the future will see a continued escalation of the cost of operations and maintenance, with an increased risk of asset failure during opening season. The service contract with Belgravia Leisure, who currently operates the pool on my behalf, ends on the 30th of August this year. The initial contract period was for 3 years, with the capacity to extend by 3 single-year extensions. And it's recommended that officers initiate a review of the current contract extension options to allow officers to undertake necessary strategic planning to consider the future, allow council to consider the future of the pool, or how we keep them going. So financial risk implications, the operational budget has increased by 69% since pre-COVID. Partially attributed to a general increase on goods and services, and the pools and plant infrastructure reaching the end of life. Based on the operational maintenance spend for the season, there's a table there that provides how much council actually subsidises the cost for each pool, and for each person that visited the pool in the last season. For both, council paid $55, just over. For a boat, paid just over $83, and for landing spur, just over $195. The average benchmark for the regional seasonal swim facilities is considered to be about around $50 per visit. Sometimes it can be lower than that. But however, council does recognise the importance of swimming pools to the community and best significantly into their provision, and officers want to continue to balance challenges with cost increases and maintaining an open pool. The officer's recommendation is that council notes the information contained within the report, approves the negotiation of an extension of the existing contract with Belgravia Leisure for a period of 2 years to allow for appropriate strategic planning for the future, and approves the development of a full strategy to be developed utilising conditions and options data obtained from external experts with strategic options developed in-house. And I would just like to say an extra comment there is that the approval of the development of a full strategy with that budget in place.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Move Councillor Clark, second Councillor Ferrari. You wish to speak, Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the report is a very positive one in the sense of things, but it's also insalutary in the sense of things. So I think some of the good news in the report, like saying if 8,000 people use the pool, that means every resident uses at least one equivalent. However, as Ms. Bramwell points out, that's cost each resident $75 each time they've been in that sense of things. And that's a reality. That's about 6% of our rate. So it is a significant cost, but it is significantly affected in this year by the maintenance things that we couldn't predict in that sense of things. Better a year last year, but we have no idea what next year will bring. And I think the key part of the recommendation is that we need to do the work on. I think council officers are very kind in saying that they've reached the end of their life. I would think they have reached the end of their life about 15 years ago. Particularly in the case of both, but not perhaps so much in the case of the voter. But we do need to do that strategy. We need to work out where we're going with the asset. Really is a really good. Thank you, Smith.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Wish to speak? I only wish to make one comment. If we have a look at the national figures on drownings this summer, they've increased dramatically. And Pyrenees Shire does not stand on its own in the situation with swimming pools. Rural Council last week we had a discussion around this very subject, and I would suggest to you that every state of Australia finds itself in the same situation. The larger centres have certainly, Ballarat and the Bendigos and the city pools have had the investment into them because they've got the people there to support it. But once you get away from the major cities, it's a problem right around Australia. It may well be a problem with the federal government. Might have to step up some attitude towards funding some of these improvements. I know, I don't want to see the pools closed because, you can have a fun park with a bit of water squirt up in there, but that doesn't teach you how to swim when you get into trouble. It's a fact of life, I guess, that, laws and restrictions are placed upon pool management. You've got to have lifesavers present now, and you've got to be fully qualified, and you've got to have backups. So it goes on, that's the rules of the land, but it still doesn't say the person who gets into trouble when they're swimming and they haven't learned how to keep the basic fundamentals. So, yeah, we've given it 2 years to sort the problem out. We'll give you some. Put the motion, those in favour? Carried. 12.3.3, youth engagement program. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you.
Thank you. This report provides council with an update on the direction and commitment to future community engagement with Pyrenees Shire young people. As measured in the 2021 census, 12% of the Pyrenees Shire population is made up of young people, which means approximately 938 people, divided between 12 and 24. And that represents a significant portion of our population who have a want and a need to represent their views, their unique views, needs and aspirations. And there's an equitable spread of our youth population across the geographically large and disparate Shire, where they are affected by transport disadvantage, forms of social isolation, and varying degrees of disconnection from peer networks, youth services and assets. Council officers have identified the need for a sustainable, consistent approach to working with and supporting our young people. As an outcome, a youth engagement framework is currently under development, and this will ensure that young people are continuously engaged through a coordinated approach, genuinely connected with council and other relevant stakeholders and the broader community. Council support to young people historically has been through programs like the State Government Engage Programme, the Western Bulldogs Community Foundation Leadership Programme. This model of engagement is project-based and results in large periods of inactivity and a lasting connection between council and the young people. In recognition, council officers seek to nurture the relationship with the community, sustainable and consistent presence of engagement and connection that meaningfully consults and possible collaborate and involves young people in our project services and assets. The development of the youth engagement framework is supposed to be undertaken in a design process. It combines expertise of council officers with the lived experience of young people, taking a capacity building partnership approach. The key outputs of an engagement program would be a series of participatory processes, which is studied on more in the program performing committee focus groups and stakeholder review. And post the program, they may come up with various proposals, such as continuation of the committee structure, delivery of ongoing engagement opportunities, or it may recommend evolution into alternate decision making in a sound form, such as a youth council or youth capacity. And I know that most of you in our Shire have been keen to start something like that. So in conclusion, the establishment of the youth engagement framework will establish meaningful, genuine, ongoing engagement approaches to young people that will be importantly community-led. And it's the officer's recommendation that council note for the receipt of this report as council's commitment to improving ongoing engagement with young people and provide resourcing from council to support with our budget to ensure the continuity of youth engagement. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a really important piece of work, and as mentioned in the body of the report, we do engage them in programs throughout the year. However, usually it's for a short time, and then that interaction falls away and it leaves quite significant gaps. So we need something more sustainable and consistent. I've heard the community development team speak a number of times and present to us in relation to some of their thinking and their strategies. And I really believe they're in the right space regarding some strategies for our youth across the Pyrenees Shire. I think it's important that we support our youth to be the best they can and to help them achieve, and that's really, really important. And if we do that, we also might get some of them to stay in the local area, which would also be really, really great. And as I regularly say, we need to do this because they're our future leaders and future people of our community. I think it's a very important strategy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have basically a seventh of our community is under 25. If we look around the room we're in tonight, we'll notice there's not many of them here. And we need to develop an interest in council because, as Councillor Ferrari said, they are our leaders, ongoing leaders, and we usually lose them in that area of 25 to 50 or 60 when council needs some fresh ideas sometimes. So I support this motion that we continue to support our youth wherever possible. Mr. Reynolds, if you could just give me an indication of the 24-25 budget, what sort of dollar cost are we talking about?
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for your question. We're looking to be around about 26.
Thank you. So $26,000 when compared to the significant dollars in our last subject about swimming pool is nothing. And I think it's money well spent to try and increase the use. When we've recently had the youth come and report to council, they've been very, very worthy speakers.
I share your sentiments totally. CEO has an indication here that they might drop. Well, we're back on mentioned what's it? We're checking the different sector as well. Where's the standard for removed? All right, with that removed, no further speakers, I put the recommendation. There you go. Item 12.4.1, fire recovery plan. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report, councillors, is for council to approve draft fire recovery plans for the Pyrenees Rocky Road fire event. Councillors, there are a number of activities that were reported in a lot of detail at the last council meeting, and there's a further update in respect of a couple of those items in this report, and particularly the activity around the secondary impact assessments is continuing. The transition to recovery from the incident control has occurred on the 5th of April. So it's a formal process between the various agencies involved in the response and acknowledging and identifying various recovery activities that are required. So council now is fully into recovery mode. And with that comes the need for a plan. So a draft plan has been prepared and been circulated to councillors, and spent some time this afternoon going into some of the work in that plan. This is a working document. It's expected that there be some ongoing refinement of this plan as we continue to engage with the community and various stakeholders and agencies involved in it. It does require resourcing, and those resources are required to be funded and funds allocated. And at this point in time, councillors, many of the activities that are to be undertaken today are not specifically funded on current funding arrangements. So there's an ongoing role for councils to continue to advocate for funding. Some of the activities, as you're aware, councils are covered under the disaster recovery funding arrangements, which is a Commonwealth arrangement. Those funding arrangements provide for the things like the restoration of essential public assets. So this is the restoration of roads, for example, which are considered essential public assets. But there is a requirement for council to ensure that the activities that we undertake in this recovery are able to be recouped. Otherwise, it actually places council in significant financial stress. One of the key activities that is front and centre for us right at the moment, which is no surprise to council, based on the previous report on this, relates to the road management. And as councils are aware, there are a number of roads that have been impacted, and many of these roads at the moment are closed or available only for local access. And this is because there's significant risks on those roads as a result of trees, which is hazardous trees, which have been impacted by the fire event. This is a high priority activity to enable these roads to be made safe in a timely way, to enable safe access to properties for residents, businesses, visitors and other road users. And this is essentially the highest cost recovery activity contained in the draft plan. At the time of preparing this report, council is working with a group of interested residents who have expressed concerns over the extent of tree removal that has taken place to date. The management of the safety risks on the one hand and the conservation values of trees on the other hand will require considerable effort and support from other agencies, including the Emergency Recovery Victoria and KICA, to obtain a long-term best outcome for council and community. This is very much a dynamic and evolving activity, councillors. So as mentioned, the plan has been circulated. It is subject to some administrative changes based on conversations this afternoon with councillors. And so the recommendation, councillors, is that council approves the draft fire recovery plan with or without changes that may be needed, noting the dynamic nature of the recovery activity. And that's a status update on the fire recovery plan before to a council meeting in 3 months.
Thank you, Mr. Noel. Move Councillor Rees, seconded Councillor Clark. Thanks, Councillor Rees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pyrenees Shire is going to be with us for a considerable length of time. And the main problem on the horizon is the fact that our time's going to run out with regard to our finance. We heard this afternoon that the staff in some instances are not doing things because they're not sure that they're going to be funded, and the council may not be able to meet the cost of these services. I recall at the time of the fire, a number of politicians telling us how they'll support us and get us through and make sure everything's okay. But it doesn't seem to happen when we start talking between the two bureaucracies, between the state and federal government and ourselves. So it would be nice if some of those politicians were on hand now to help us with those bureaucracies. I hope that somebody may be listening.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, as Mr. Nolan said, this is a dynamic document, and it is where we're at today. It will be different tomorrow because things will move quickly. We can't understate the impact of the fire. It burned about 6% of the Shire, but in those couple of really high danger days, the actual day of the fire and the Wednesday of the next week, about 25% of the municipality was actually under threat on over one of those days. So it really is amazing. But I think the point I'd like to make as a councillor is that this is the beginning of the process. It kind of takes us to the next stage, but we've got a really, really long way to go. My point is, for those of you who can get a copy of this, it'll be publicly available. Section 6.3 talks about all the supporting agencies, and we've got a role to be the conduit to those supporting agencies. There's 22 listed there. There's no community groups in that. That's pretty much all state agencies. And I think one of the challenges we've got while we are the conduit, even the pathway for us sometimes to get to those is not particularly clear. And that's something, again, that would help us significantly in the sense of things. Where we can, we'll make undertakings to support people, but please understand in this early stage particularly, we've got some legal responsibilities and some statutory responsibilities that we've really got to fulfil and fulfil in a timely manner. Mr. Noel mentioned those, and I think that's a key one. And I'd say now to those people who contacted me, because it is mostly in my patch this week, I appreciate I've been out on site twice this week meeting with people and talking about what's going on in that sense of things. My take is that what the community want and what we want actually isn't very, very far apart. We're actually negotiating over the last 10 or 15%, I think, really in the sense of things. And I think that's a pretty good place to be in and a pretty good thing to remember in the sense. We've got a role to listen, we've got a role to respond, we've got a role to engage here, there's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to make decisions as a council, there's no doubt about that, because we're the road manager and we're the people that are responsible for that. So please understand that we do have that responsibility to do that. And I think as you continue to work with us, and please do that, and I know our council officers will do that, I've often found the perfect committee enemy of good actually, hopefully in this case, will be good enough for us to get stuff done and get the job done that we need to do. So I think we do that and we get on.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Clark. I have a question from Mr. Gowans. Unannounced, Mr. Gowans. The situation with Hancock's and Pine Plantations. Do we have any indication as to the outcome of the bushfire in relation to their operation, and what amount of traffic may well be using our roads as
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your question. Yes, there has been contact by my team with HPV, and they've already started work. They've got a limited time frame in which they can salvage the timber that's been fire affected. There's a few issues in terms of where some of their work overlaps with our needs as well. So the Raglan Elmhurst Road has some timber that's been fire affected as part of HPV, which is also deemed a risk to the road users. And we've asked HPV to prioritise that work to remove trees that have the potential of affecting road users. So they've been really cooperative and effectively they're tripling their amount of timber that they would be taking out in the next year. Now, it was from 300, I'm not sure it's cubic tonnes or whatever their normal would have been, to 900. I'm sure it's not cubic tonnes, it's some other measurement, but it's triple what they would normally be taking out. So you're going to see a lot of road traffic, and it's already started.
It has already started.
It has already started.
Yes, that adds to the urgency for our works crews to get these roads up to a standard. You don't tend to suggest a number of vehicles that might be using that road daily or weekly.
I do have that as well. We worked it out. I think again it's in that 50 to 100 trucks per day amount that we could be talking about. So it's going to be a lot of registers. They haven't got to that level yet, but that's what we'll be ramping up to. Yep.
Yeah, I just raised that as an issue because it just increases the amount of urgency that we need to get through to the state government to get this issue cleaned up as quickly as possible. We'll be relaying that back to the minister, appropriate minister, as soon as possible. Okay, councillors, we have a recommendation before us. Those in favour, those carried. We'll move to item 13. Start with councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recently, because of the fire, we've had the Governor General attend Blackford for a morning tea, and he and his wife basically let us know that we weren't alone, that people were out there thinking about it, and they've been moved on up to Promoter, who had quite a severe fire just before us. Not part of the job I think he would enjoy, but part of the role as the Governor General. Then moving to the other side, I represent a council at the opening of the breast screening facility in Maryvale Hospital, and providing this sort of service within our area for women that need it. And the information coming to me on that day was a number of women that don't utilise those facilities that are available to them because they're too far away and whatever. We now have a wonderful facility in our midst. And Board and Risk Committee meeting was, as usual, investigating what's happening, providing support to us as a council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Usually cover and chat. The last one, of course, was in your patch at Landsborough, which was a lovely little evening. Spoken to a number of constituents relating to recovery process from the recent fires, and as Councillor Clark alluded to, I just encourage those people to keep engaging with the council. If it's not our responsibility, then I'm sure we can point people in the right direction. So please engage with the council, continue to do so, and probably need to do that for quite some time. Had a number of discussions with DECA and the CMA regarding recovery activities, and discussions with some constituents about the dangerous tree removal process, which has been a bit of a topic of discussion. And the fire, although it was a couple of months ago now, it's still very active in people's minds, understandably, and certainly affecting people in many and varied ways, and that's quite evident. Some of the people I've spoken to even fairly recently. So I just encourage people to please reach out and seek help if you need it, and encourage everyone else to look out for their neighbours, friends, loved ones, and people in the community. And don't be afraid to ask, "Are you okay?" Because this is going to affect people for a long time. It affects people in different ways. We're all different, and it's just devastating. And some people find it difficult to recover in the near future, or if at all. So we just need to keep an eye on those people and encourage them to seek help. And I just want to finish on a really tragic note. Acknowledge the tragic death of Hannah Maguire. Recent death of Hannah Maguire, who lost her life recently to a very devastating family violence incident. She was, in case you don't know, she was part of the Beaufort Football Netball Club team. I was very pleased to see that the recent game on the weekend that Beaufort and Dalesford undertook a minute's silence game in respect of Hannah. So that was really pleasing for them to do that, and it was just a fantastic gesture. My sincerest condolences go to Deb, Hannah's mother, who was a work colleague of mine. My thoughts and prayers are with the family. And I pray that Hannah's death will cause some serious and necessary reviews of the legislation around family violence and the current bail and justice procedures. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like Councillor Priory, I've still got some things going on with Van Dien Rocky Road Fire, community meetings, and obviously the stuff this week around tree removal. And again, encourage people if they wish to reach out to me as the councillor, please do in that sense of things. Just in terms of going around my local communities, I had the pleasure of Lexington in March to do a BMC for the Small Halls event. For those of you that haven't been, the Small Halls event is basically 15 small halls between Port Fairy Folk Festival and Canberra Folk Festival, where folk artists actually come and actually do a concert for the local community. There's about 120 people there. It was a really, really good night out. There was only 2 people who'd been licensed in the room. Marva, who was one of the seniors of the team, so we had a really good chat about Iceland. That sense of things, and he's a bit of Icelandic, so it was really good. So a couple of fantastic acts, it was really, really good. The other bit of news, of course, out of Leeson is that the committee working on the purchase of the hotel has made an offer to the owners, and the owners have said that that's not acceptable in terms of terms and conditions at this stage. So that's not the end of the road for the community at this stage. They've obviously just got some more work to do on that. But in the interim, the Lexington Hub Bar and Bistro, courtesy of the renovations we've done at the Waterbury Hub, is very active on a Thursday and Saturday night, and we'll get a chance to have a look at that on Friday when we go to the opening of the formal opening of the hub there. In Evansford, I chaired the triennial meeting of the committee there and welcomed 3 new committee members of the 7, which is really good. So really good to see that committee renew itself and have plans for the future. As Councillor Ferrari mentioned, General Islands football with netball started on the weekend. Waterbury was actually hosting Clunes, and Clunes, of course, is where Hannah Maguire's family live. So like Beaufort and Darlington, we also had a minute of silence with all the players from the netball and football. But it was really moving, and we absolutely do stand in solidarity with that family for what she's gone through. May it not be in vain that we actually get some change that we know. Just finally from me, Mr Mayor, not this weekend, but next weekend on the 27th of April, all roads lead to Waterloo for their back to, and I hope I'll see everybody there.
Thank you. Starting off on my list, I had the privilege of attending a rural council's meeting in Melbourne instead of on the screen. It's always good to get together with your fellow committee members, but we did have quite a gathering from right across rural Victoria of councils and councillors or CEOs and mayors and councillors. We had the privilege of going to Parliament House after 2.5-hour session at the Windsor, Hotel Windsor. We had luncheon together and flogged out swimming pools and a few other issues, and then had the opportunity to hear from Gail Tierney and the Minister for Local Government, Melissa Horn, that's correct, and the Premier, Ginger Allen, came along. I did grab the opportunity to have a short discussion with the Premier, and she assured me that assistance would be available for Council. Of course she would, but she has stood by her word and sent official people along to discuss with Jim, and we're hopefully going to get some more irons in the fire and get some reward out of that short meeting. Like everybody else, I gather, I had the opportunity of entertaining the Governor-General just prior to the meeting with the public at the fire station, and then when we had luncheon together, so we had about 20 minutes at the Resource Centre with the Governor-General, which was very pleasant. He rang me the day before and said that it was David Early speaking, and he said he was the Governor-General, so that was over that hurdle. But let me say, David Early was very easy to speak to, and his wife has a very pleasant voice. She loves to sing, so we had quite a jovial time together, and they ventured off to the mail after they finished talking to us. I did go to Raglan 7th of March, met with the Pyrenees. They were probably at the stage where the smoke had died down, and they were still frustrated up to the hilt about how things didn't work out. But I guess, to be fair, with incident control in Ballarat, fire and both, it's easy to get upset when you see a fairly decent wall of fire going over your head, heading to the back Raglan Road, and not being able to get the support that you needed there and then because the radio communication was broken. These are a few issues that have been raised since, and hopefully they're worked out. We had our briefing here in Avoca, and then we went off to Redbank, and met with the ratepayers in Redbank, which was very good. It was slow for a start, but Trevor come along to boost the numbers, and then Angela turned up and met me at the door, and she was firing before she actually got in the door. But, you know, the world's full of characters, and Angela is one of our characters, and we love her still, even if she does carry on a little bit sometimes. I had a meeting in Ballarat with the GBAC mayors and CEOs, Greater Ballarat councillors around the area. We were a bit small numbers, so that's why I did get a fair bit of discussion at that meeting. And I had the opportunity to thank Ballarat City Council for their support during the fire. They didn't hesitate in setting up the centre of the Wendouree Football Oval, and they've really been over backwards to help us with. And even though Central Goldfields weren't at the meeting, I passed their thanks. And I had a meeting on the 21st of March with Minister Horn in Melbourne as an elected representative on the mayoral advisory panel. That was an interesting little session. There were 5 mayors from the city region. We had a mayor from Wellington Council and one from Bawbor, and the discussion basically went around council conduct, and I've got to say to my fellow councillors, you are excellent students, all of you, because some of the antics that obviously go on some of the larger municipal councils in Melbourne are different. But I was reminded at our rural council meetings last week that it's not only Melbourne that have their problems. There are a few councillors out in the country region that don't show the due respect that we all deserve. We are representatives of the people, I know, but we should, in my opinion anyway, respect one another. It was interesting to hear that one particular councillor in the city council, which I won't name, has never attended in person in the over 3.5 years that he's been there. But they're the sort of actions, they come in virtually and they have their say and then they've got better suits. Anyway, I always find it rewarding that we can look one another in the eye and we can have differences, but we get over our differences. And that's what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. Local government, we're here to represent the people, not ourselves, but the people. The beauty of the Pyrenees Shire is there'd be very few patrons or residents in the council that don't know us personally. They're all known to our ratepayers, so that makes us a little bit more honest, perhaps. I did speak eventually after the discussion around councillor conduct and what's going to happen with the upcoming elections. It's obvious that the current Labor government are very keen to get more female representation on council, which is a good thing. I believe if the right people put their hand up, they'll get elected, whether they be male or female, but we certainly need to go out there and encourage our female counterparts to be part of local government. They do a very good job. We know with Tanya, she's a wonderful councillor. And I did, at the end of the meeting, take the opportunity to remind Minister Horn that we were still out of pocket by quite a deal of money from the 2022 floods. We would be keen to get a bit of support in getting some of our applications over the line so that we get front up to the fight against this war once as well. So I'm hopeful that even though the state government are probably hard pushed to find too many spare dollars, that they might just give us a decent hearing and a bit of more financial support. My so that meeting closed. Yeah, we've got to go to meeting not closed. I've been reminded by my CEO. We have to go into recess and discuss confidential meetings. So one item we've got to discuss, and then we will come back and